Easy now. Papa got things making headlines.
Come down. Ooh, you make my high come down. Always tripping when you come around. I'ma have to cut you off, like right now. You see, I don't want to drive me. You can say that for your mama. Maybe you should smoke some. Me tried the marijuana. I was never you good. The vibe was straight. Showed you a couple of things and they ain't finna change. I treated you right. Everything was a gift from a time to your bag and the color on your.
Welcome to the Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast, powered by The Athletic. Shout out to the company. My name is Michael Sean Dugar. You can follow me on the tweet machine at Mike Dugar, MikeDugar. I am verified on there with the little blue check. Shout out to Elon Musk. He ain't charged me for it yet. Appreciate you, big dog. Shout out to all YouTube subscribers as well. Seahawks Man-to-Man is the name of the channel on YouTube. That is Seahawks Man, the number 2 man. We appreciate all the love and support all season long. Chris, talk to him.
What is up, everybody? It's your boy, Christopher Kidd. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at CKIDD206 and that's CKid206.
I said all season long. That implies the season's over. I'm sorry. It is not. Shout out to the Fighting Dan Campbells and the Fighting Pete Carrolls leading their respective teams to victory on Sunday. Just a wild day of football, it felt like. Seahawks win 19-16 in overtime in their regular season finale against the Rams, and they need to go home. They go home or they go watch the Lions game, nervous as hell. The Fighting Dan Campbells and his cast of a bunch of black assistant coaches, by the way, go down to Lambeau and win for the first time in I don't know how long down there in Green Bay. Go to 9-8. Both teams ended up 9-8, but the Seahawks end up getting the tiebreaker over the Lions head-to-head because they beat them in week 4. Who knew that would be such a big win? So now the Seahawks, Chris, are in the postseason. They're 9-8, a winning record. 1 year after losing Russ, losing Bobby, the Seahawks find a way to get a winning record, and they have a top 5 pick, courtesy of Russ and the Broncos. There's just tons of reasons why Pete Carroll was just elated after the Lions win. He didn't do a media availability with us, the local media. He just did like a local, what is King 5, the NBC? He did a local NBC affiliate hit on the 5th quarter or whatever. Shout out to Pete and his people too. But we got one more week in us, Chris. We wasn't sure, and here we go. We here, man. A very stressful day I feel like watching 2 Seahawks games. You got the overtime in Seattle. Go to Lambeau, and it comes down to a 4th down conversion with under 2 minutes left, man. Just a wild day.
Yeah, wild day indeed. I was one game off my prediction. I said the Seahawks would finish 8-9, and boy, did they finish 9-8. So kudos to them. They believed throughout the whole season, regardless of how things have looked as the season progressed, they were able to gut it out. The Rams weren't going to just allow them to win the game, as you saw on the first play of the game. Jalen Ramsey with an incredible play, jumps it, almost got a pick 6, but fortunately the Seahawks were able to get him out of bounds, and it was a rocky start, but they finished strong. Although there are things that we'll talk about as with Twitter questions. A lot of people are curious, well, shoot, how do they beat the Niners? We might have some answers for you in that regard. Can they get it done and all that? But one step at a time. They did handle business at home at Lumen, and they have a chance now in the wild card against a hot Niners team. And if they can get that, who knows what's next? So this team they're in the dance, as they all call it. They have a chance. That's all you want at the end of the day is a chance, and they proved it. And you got to give credit to the Lions as Michael called them, the Fighting Dan Campbells.
Fighting Dan Campbell's, baby.
With the black coaching staff, they weren't going to give up. They knew what it was. Seahawks won ultimately, so that eliminates them from an opportunity to get into the postseason. But they wanted to dampen the party for the Packers, and they were able to do so. Great defensive game plan. Offense, they played okay. They got what they need to do done. And ultimately, they came out with the W, and that catapulted the Seahawks into the scenario they are in. And what a game by both teams. So here we are, man, talking about what's next for the Seahawks team. And they have a huge mountain to climb, but you ask anybody in that locker room, Mike, I'm sure they all think they can definitely get it done. especially with how they won on Sunday against the Rams, albeit Geno didn't have his best game. I thought the defense really stepped up when they needed to. Daryl Taylor, he showed flashes of why he can be so good. It's unfortunate that it's so late in the season, but hopefully he can continue that because the Seahawks would definitely need that from him moving forward, especially if they want to knock off the Niners. But what a day. What a day. The season will continue. We're going to keep giving you guys a show, and here we are.
Yeah, so people sometimes ask us about the behind the scenes stuff. I know I got asked a little bit about it last week. I want to kind of talk about yet a little bit about just what the post game was like, because it was a very weird post game. Usually what they do in week 18, they leave all the scheduling open so they can flex things accordingly, so that everyone has something to play for, relative to where they are in their season. And obviously, as Seahawks fans know, they scheduled the Lions game in a situation where the Lions could need to win to help the Seahawks after the Seahawks eliminate the Lions. Like, it's a less than ideal situation. So it's set up like a very weird post-game scenario where we're going to talk to the guys. They won, they finished 9-8, but they have no idea whether they're going to show up tomorrow for film or show up tomorrow to clean their lockers out, which is a very weird thing. Like, some guys were like, I ain't watching that game. I'm going to go spend time with my lady, my kids, whoever it is, and just I'll get the text from somebody. Somebody's going to tell me. There are a few guys like that. Quentin Jefferson was like that, for example. Some guys were like, I'm going home now. I'm locked in. I'm watching the Lions. I have to see every play. There are a few guys like that. So a very, very interesting scenario, because we're kind of asking guys like, it's almost like one of them books where you get to choose your own adventure. Like, all right, question. If this is the end of the season, how do you feel? If the season continues, how do you feel? It's a very, very weird situation. And then so all of us media people, we all kind of stayed up in the press box after we come back from the locker room. By then, it's about the second quarter of the game. I caught like the last few minutes of the first quarter and then the rest of the Lions game. We got all of us in there. Can't none of us write shit. We just sitting there watching the game on TV like a big happy family. And you could feel how much was on the line between the Seahawks Twitter account, between like there was a Seahawks marketing staff party in the back of the press box, like back across the hallway. But they were having a party. So they had food, they had drinks back there. They were so loud. Like every play, we could tell something crazy was happening because of them, even if we weren't watching the game. That flea flicker that got called back, the pick that got called back, the missed field goal the Lions had. It was just, you could just feel the emotions of that, everything riding on another team. Is that thousands of miles away? Yeah, it's got to be. However far, very far away. However far Wisconsin is from Washington. Probably thousands of miles. Anyway, please look that up for me so I don't sound crazy.
It's thousands, because Pullman's 400 or 200 something. So yeah, it's definitely thousands.
Yeah, thousands of miles away. Thank you. Like even I won't just say his name, but like one of the interns for the Seahawks, like a communications person, he is on they're all on like 1 year internships. So he's sitting there on pins and needles, like he's like nervous as shit. And he says it like late in the game. He's like, my internship is over if the Packers win. And he just kind of puts in perspective, like, oh, damn, there's a lot, just little movement pieces all just riding on this. It was kind of fascinating, So that was a little behind the scenes of what it was like. The players kind of was like, oh, yeah, it's a little weird, It just, now we won. We got to go home and root for another team, Michael Jackson of the Seahawks. He told me, he's like, man, I hate the Lions. I was like, what? He's like, oh. He's like, they cut me. It's like, oh, damn, I didn't know that. I know he got drafted by the Cowboys. The Lions traded him to the Patriots, I think before the 2020 season. So it was a bunch of guys like Quandre's like, oh, I'm cool with the Lions. Austin Blythe was like, I ain't never rooted for another NFL team my whole career. Now I'm a big Lions fan. Gabe Jackson was like, man, I hope that game's 100-0. It was, and then there was some guys, like I said, like Q, like, I ain't watching that game. Go home.
I feel that.
We'll find out one way or another whether we about to play or we go home. So it was kind of fascinating. It's just, we had never been through it before. Even Shelby Harris was like, I've never had to root for another team on week 18, and I've never had a winning record. So that was a bunch of firsts for a guy like Shelby. It was just an interesting post game scene, So it was a special time. And before we get more Seahawks stuff, Chris, we got to shout out Dan Campbell, man.
Yeah, once again,
the innovation, because they obviously did some innovative stuff in there, particularly the screen hook and ladder play. But for a team like that to have nothing to play for and play like they had everything to play for, that is them embodying the energy of their coach. And that's how you can tell whether you should keep a coach. Even if the record is not like where you want to be, it's how they finish, seasons. Even last year, I thought it was very important how the Seahawks finished. They kicked ass in their final couple games with not a damn thing to play for but pride. Same thing with the Lions on national TV. You could just – I respect coach. Like, even Lovie Smith, who's been fired by the time we even recorded this, his Houston team went out there and fought on the road in Week 18, and they won. And it's going to cost them a shot at, like, Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud. But for Lovie, he wins a lot of cool points across the league for getting his guys to fight in Week 18 after a hard-ass year. So shout out to the fighting Dan Campbells, because that's a sign of progress there. If they'd have rolled over and died in Green Bay because they had nothing to play for, then you might have to get Dan up out of there. But nah, you keep hitting on his black-ass coaches because they fighting over there, man. It looked cold as shit there, too. And they was fighting out there, man. Dan kept our season alive, too.
Yeah, he kept us working, man. And to your point about this team not giving up, especially knowing that their season's over once the Seahawks won.
Yeah.
Or maybe, to be honest, they probably didn't even know. There's a possibility that
they had to know. They knew.
What if Campbell was like, hey, turn off all your phones? I don't want to hear nothing about the Seahawks game. We know what time our game is. Let's play like we have a chance. Because he could have did that. I'm not saying he did.
You're right. I don't know if he did that or not.
And that right there sends a message is like, we have a game to play. Yeah. We don't care about the outcome of anybody else. Sure, we can go back and say we wish we'd have done A, B, and C, which Pete alluded to in the presser tonight. If we had done some things differently, we wouldn't even be in a situation. So we got to root for the Lions. It is what it is. We're here now.
Yep.
Dan Campbell, his vibe just seems like, I'm not saying this is what they did, but his vibe is, you guys got a game tonight. I don't care what the Seahawks have to do. We know what we must do. If we win, we are in. That's the mindset. Once you find out the results later, you know what? We busted our ass. To be honest, if you look at the post game and how the Lions reacted, it's as if they didn't even know that they were eliminated.
Right.
They played it, they won it, and they acted like they still had another week, which is credit to Campbell, the staff, and what they're all about, because they all bought in. They all believed, and that's pretty much the same with Pete. Like everyone was down and out about how this season is going to go and whatnot, and can they – hell, even us, me and you had our doubts and whatnot, just watching training camp. Yeah. And for it to come to fruition and they're in the dance, they have a chance, that's all that they want is an opportunity. The players got to go out there and seize the moment and make it the best. After that, you got to live with the results. But for right now, they're game planning to go to San Francisco and come out victorious. Just like the Lions game plan, no matter what the outcome was in the Seahawks game versus the Rams, they wanted to beat Aaron Rodgers. There was a lot at stake. Going into that game, the Lions were 3-27. You think they want to just lay down and be 3-28? Of course not. Regardless of what happens if they lose that, if the Seahawks were to win their game against the Rams, it doesn't matter. They know we got to beat Aaron Rodgers at some point, and it's going to be this year. This is it. So that was huge, and it's just crazy. Just crazy how everything worked out for the Seahawks. They got a lot of love on Sunday from a roughing the passer, which they didn't get a touchdown on. They got 3 points. What also kept them in the game? The Jalen Ramsey game? Yeah, Seahawks ran game. The Jalen Ramsey standing there and Geno just running into him. Unsportsmanlike. That could have just been a no call. I get it why they called it, but what is Jalen supposed to do?
Well, I mean, it's a no call. It's a no call if that's not a quarterback. I think the fact that it was a quarterback influences because the referees are just kind of they understand who the money makers are. They understand to protect the quarterbacks, even if he's a runner at that point. What else happened? The roughing the kicker.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yep.
Was that? I don't know if that. I didn't
actually. It was running into the kicker. I said that wrong. He ran into him, but he was off. It is what it is. The Seahawks didn't seize every opportunity. They should have scored that touchdown when they got gifted an automatic first down. You got to put up 7 and get this, just put them away. But they weren't able to do that. And then they had to rely on a field goal on that drive. It is what it is. You know what? The biggest thing is, Mike, they're in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think one last thing on this, the Seahawks themselves and how they did win the game. I do think it's not the prettiest thing in the world, and that's got some issues to it. Some issues that will probably have a very high chance of coming to bite them in the playoff game. But the fact that they've fixed a couple areas that were ailing them in the last couple of weeks, they're running the ball a lot better. Ken Walker went over 100 yards for the third straight game. I think he's over 1,000 for the season. I think he leads the league in rushing yards over the last 3 weeks. I want to say. So like he found his groove when the running game was just ass for like a good stretch there, and they'll tell you that the film says it, the stats says it, everything says it. That's not even an opinion. And then their defense wasn't good for weeks, for like a month, wasn't very good, and now their defense is turned it around. You know, they've been really good in spite of the offense in a lot of stretches. You look at the Kansas City game; they had a lot of stretches. The Chiefs, I think, had their season high in 3 and outs. And the offense wasn't doing anything for the Seahawks, and the defense just kept grinding. Same thing with that Niners game, honestly, week 15 for a lot of it. The offense just did nothing, and the Seahawks just kept it. 2-score game, 21-6 for a long time. Same thing with the Jets. The offense didn't do much in that game, and they ended up getting it done, but the Seahawks just held them down. And then today, the offense settled for field goals 3 times in the red zone, 1 time on the goal line. I think the goal line drive was after the punt they mentioned, where they got gifted a first down, held them down. That final drive of regulation that the Rams had, held them down. Rams get the ball in overtime, but with any score wins the game. Interception, 5 sacks on Baker, 4 sacks on Zach Wilson. Turnovers, I think they have 3 interceptions over the last 2 weeks without allowing a passing touchdown. Like, it's coming together. Those 2 things they've created other issues because now Jason Myers, I think, has missed in back-to-back weeks as well. That's a problem. But in the passing offense just falling off a cliff somehow. So you got that as an issue. So they're not perfect. That's what happened when you're 9-8. But the fact I do like that they fixed a couple things that were their defense had just fallen from the 4-game win streak to the losing 5 out of 6. They just had just fallen statistically and on film. Same thing with their run game. They were cooking and then just fell hard. And then they fixed both of those things. I think that's a really encouraging sign because they needed to do both of those things really well to beat the Rams. They needed to run on them because I knew throwing would be hard. They needed to stop the run and get after Baker. And they did. They did a good. I think Cam Akers still went for like 100. He had a good day. But Cam went for 104 on 21 carries. Cam had a good day. But in general, I think they earned the right to rush the passer, and it led to getting the Baker 5 times. So credit to them because that's on the coaching staff and the players too. I asked the guys on defense in particular, what changed? What you guys fix? They didn't say no. I think it was Michael Jackson who told me, man, it wasn't even no X's and O's at this point. Like, we just need effort. You need effort and everybody be connected. That's it. It ain't but so many plays and shit. Now I'm paraphrasing, but like that was his sentiment. It was like effort. Same thing with DJ Dallas on the offense. Effort. That's it. Just we need effort and togetherness, and we'll get it done. So that was the key. And boy, they better have that effort and be together on Saturday.
Yeah, they're gonna have to be, man. They're going up against a juggernaut, man, without their quarterback and Jimmy G, a guy that they are comfortable with, and they're still getting to know Purdy, even though he's playing well. It's just a lot to ask, but so far he's doing his job. You can't complain. Right? What's up?
Purdy's undefeated?
Yeah, they won 11 straight, so yeah.
11 straight?
10 or 11.
I think it's 10.
How about that? That's a lot of wins in a row.
That's nuts. Someone said it to me in the press box. I said, they won how many?
Yeah, that's a tough one, man. And you know what they're going to do? Punch you right in the mouth, or at least attempt to. So Seattle's got to be ready for that.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 in a row.
Crazy.
Wow. That's crazy. All right.
Well, you know what, Mike? You ready to get to these questions, man, before we get out of this here? You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's do it, man.
We got quite a few. So once in the game, we want to thank everyone out there for taking the time to ask us Twitter questions. The best part is the season ain't over. So I know a lot of them are regarding what's next, and that's the 49ers. So what Mike and I are going to do here is we're going to combine pretty much all your questions about the Niners in this first question, and then we're going to go from there. So for the Niners matchup, Mike, do they have a chance? Right?
Yeah, I think they got a chance.
Do they have a chance? Okay.
I think they have a chance. I don't necessarily subscribe to the it's tough to beat a team 3 times just because the sample size is kind of small. Like, how often does a team play a team 3 times, and what are the circumstances under those three situations? So, where are the 3 games at? So I don't subscribe to that. You can beat a team 3 times if you're just better than them,
Which the Niners are.
Which the Niners are, objectively, they played significantly better in both wins. They weren't fluky. The first win, some aspects of it were fluky, but the fact that the Niners won is not, if that makes sense. Like, they won by 20 for a reason, and it wasn't a fluky reason. Same thing with the 21-13 win in Week 15. That game wasn't as close as the score would have indicated. So the Niners are an objectively, a better team. They have a better point differential, better record. They've been better in the trenches more consistently. They have one of the best defensive players in the league, and Nick Bosa. So, but that said, I think the Lions game showed, and a lot of Seahawks games have showed, maybe perhaps more instructive, or some Giants games and some Vikings games this year, is that to win a 1-score game, it does not always mean you are the better team. Sometimes some fluky shit happens.
As you saw Sunday, it's the Rams.
A punt gets muffed, a play gets called back for a flag gets missed, a challenge is won, a challenge is lost, random third down variance, drops, like the margins on big catches. Like, Tyler didn't make like a toe tap, but the margin today on his touchdown is very small. Like, that easily could have been broken up, as some of Geno's passes today were broken up. So it's again, the margins are so small. Today Geno threw a ball to hit a defender in the hands. Guy drops it. Like, there's just so, and the Seahawks have had plays where ball hits a defender in the hands.
Yeah, that's Quandre.
Yeah, Quandre dropped like 3 this year or something like that, So my point with this, they have a chance, and some of it is because I imagine they'll play a little bit better than they did the first 2 matchups for a few reasons, some health stuff. They didn't have Al Woods in the second matchup. Geno hadn't been kind of unlocked it by the time of the first matchup. There'll be a few different reasons, but maybe have Ryan Neal back in the Thursday night matchup, or excuse me, in this one coming up. But I think the general thing is that they do have a chance, if for no other reason, because it is just hard to have everything bounce your way, and all you need is 1 or 2 things. Like I said, a missed field goal here, a muffed punt here, a shanked punt here, a fumble, a botch snap, a 4th down that doesn't go right. There's so many just random little events in a game that can give an underdog a shot. And I think, what are they, like a 10-point underdog? Something like that.
I haven't even looked. Let me double check.
It's double digits. I heard when I was leaving the press box tonight. So, at this point, I'm pretty sure it's double digits. So,
yeah, -10.
Yeah, 10-point dogs. That's nuts. So, but they do have a shot. I do think they have a shot, largely because it just takes a couple swings your way to get it done. So I do think they have a shot. The third downs have been rough. I think against the Niners, that could swing in their favor. You never know. Yeah. So the weather, I think it's supposed to rain. So I do think they have a shot. I think it'll be much closer than the other 2 matchups. I will say that.
This next one comes from Brian Malone, Seahawks and Niners round 3. If you guys were the coach, how would you guys game plan differently to bring home the upset win?
I'll go offense, since I know you have a defensive strategy thing you'd like to mention. On offense, if I'm the Seahawks, and this speaks to what they have worked for them against the Rams today as well, I would go less under center when I'm trying to pass the ball. If you guys notice, Sunday in particular, it's been a little bit like this during the year, not as much. Sunday in particular, that was just not Geno's thing. The play action stuff off the under center was just not some of the boot stuff. He was throwing it away. He had to throw it in the dirt. Took a sack or 2. It's just not there. Now, when he goes empty or pistol, like, he was much more effective today. And I imagine if I was to crunch the numbers for the season, he would be probably one of the best quarterbacks out of the empty formations, and probably pistol as well. He was so much more effective. My theory on that would be that when teams are playing too high, which can have a lot of post-snap rotation. So like the safeties are moving after the ball is snapped. Geno and most quarterbacks would rather not have their back to the defense, which is what you do when you play action. I don't understand. You have to turn away from the defense. You're just blind for half a second there. And then you have to then take a picture. You have to take a picture pre-snap, snap it, turn around, and then read it again post-snap, and then make a decision. Again, that's a theory. Geno didn't tell me that or anything, but you just look at his numbers today. Look at today, the drive in the third quarter. They go under center, run. Well, actually, first you go under center, pick first play. And then third quarter, you got under center, doesn't work. It's like a little run to Ken, lose a yard. After that, Geno's like, fuck it. Empty, Colby. Empty, DK. You get a 15-yard run by Ken, in large part because he reversed course. It wasn't even really like it was hit hard originally. And then he has the play action to Tyler, which I think is like a sweep action, not like a traditional play action bomb. And in the fourth quarter, I was tracking it because I told you guys I write like UC every time Geno's under center. I write pistol if he's under pistol, or SG for shotgun. All I was writing in the fourth quarter was SG. Shit, they were going shotgun on the goal line in the fourth quarter. Yeah, they're going shotgun. They went shotgun on 3rd and 1 from the one with the season on the line. That was crazy. My point is that's what I would ditch for the Niners game. I just think Geno's far more comfortable. I think he's comfortable when he can just look at the defense, read it, trust the protection. Empty also spreads out the defense. Usually just the linebacker in the middle. Geno hits the middle of the field really well out of empty too. You can't just live in that because then you have no threat of the run. But I do think that is something I would do offensively to help him out because he is key. They've scored 13 points in 2 games against the Niners. That's nasty bad. So I think they need to be much, much better. And that's one way to do it. And if you can run out of the shotgun, you can run out of pistol, and you can run out of under center too. But the boot game, the play action stuff, under center, it just looks like it's just not working. I think both his interceptions today were out of that type of action. So yeah, you could just ditch that for wild card weekend, bring it back for the divisional round if you make it.
Defensively, what I think the Seahawks what I would do if I was coaching is I would make sure to put pressure on Brock Purdy. And that means sending maybe saw Kobe Bryant blitzing a lot on Sunday against the Rams. I like that. Put pressure on Brock. See how he handles having 7 guys coming after him as opposed to even numbers there, or 4 on 5, that is, excuse me. So that's what I would look to do. Get pressure on him. Zone blitzes, man blitzes. Just make it tough for him. Don't let him sit back there and have time to decide on what he wants to do. No. See if the Seahawks can make him make decisions. Can he read a blitz? Can he pick it up? Those type of things. Don't let him just sit back there because he's not Tom Brady. This is his first time out there in the moment. Okay, we'll see if you're ready for it. And if you dot us up, that's an L on me. That's my bad. I didn't think he'd be able to take the pressure. He did. So that's what I would definitely look to do, is try to make him uncomfortable, sending extra guys, and just making it a tough game, especially in 3rd and long situations. If the Seahawks are stopping the run and making it tough for the Niners, making them pass, get them in those long passing 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, and bring the house. See if he can react and make a good play, or we put ourselves in position to get an interception, pass breakup, you name it.
You have a number that you'd like, a blitz rate?
So the Seahawks, last time we checked, what was that? 26%, was it, Mike?
Oh, you want to hear the updated number?
Yeah, go ahead and give me that. Yeah, go ahead and give me the updated number. I don't imagine it's changed much, but go ahead.
Oh, it's changed. So for the season,
31% now.
The Seahawks opponents have faced a blitz, which is defined as 5 or more rushers, on 15.2% of their dropbacks. That is the lowest rate in the league. The Seahawks blitzed less than anyone in the NFL. And so for reference, the league average is about 25.8%. So they are well under the league average. They are trusting their guys to rush with 4. And so where would you like to see that number? Like if we had to revisit this after the game, if they blitz 15% of the time, what would you like to see?
It's got to be, you got to double that. I want to see 30%.
30? Up in 30s?
At least. You can't really, I mean, obviously the way they're rushing the passer with their front 4, sure, it's working, but they're not playing the Niners every week.
Yeah.
This is a team that is well balanced with their O-line and running the football and passing. And you can't. I'm not saying you can't, but you shouldn't just rely on your 4 guys to make plays.
Yeah.
I think in this scenario, you gotta see what this Brock kid is made of under pressure. Now, albeit I haven't watched every Rams game film wise and seen what they've done, but
Niners, you mean?
Excuse me, Niners game. But best believe when we get the link for what they did Sunday again, who they play, the
Cardinals.
I'm gonna see what the Cardinals did. Did they blitz them? I'm gonna definitely pay attention to that to see how we handle that, because I think that'll be key in the wild card matchup on Saturday.
Yeah, that's good. I like that too. You know, I love blitzing. So you ain't got to sell.
Make that clear.
You ain't got to sell me, baby.
All right, let's see here. Our next question comes from Chris Hamilton 206 underscore Chris. I know Trey Brown has been hurt, but why hasn't he gotten more playing time this season?
Real quick to go to that last question, because you mentioned it, so I want to give you the number.
Oh, yeah.
But from what I am seeing, the Cardinals blitzed Brock Purdy on week 18 38% of the time. That is,
I don't know how much it affected him. I have to go.
Yeah, I don't have that in front of me as well.
Yeah,
but that's a crazy number, though.
Well, I don't blame them. Shoot, what are they playing for? They just can we win the game? That's what they're trying to do. And 38%. I want the Seahawks at 30, so that'd be double of their 15%. I think 30%. And you can always gauge it. If at halftime, if they're blitzing and Brock is just tearing them up, all right, I was wrong. Go back to your 4-man, stay in your zone, cover 6, cover 3, try to see if you can make them uncomfortable. Obviously, the Niners are going to run the football a lot too. So you're going to have to, bring another safety in the box, and hopefully Ryan Neal is available Saturday, and that maybe changes things. But yeah, 38%, and they got smoked.
Oh, wow. Yeah, Brock threw for 3 touchdowns. He was great against the blitz. Oh, boy.
Well, hey, you know what? The good news is the Seahawks are not the Cardinals on the defensive end. So you know what? That changes things a little bit. Yeah,
that does. Sorry, the next question was on Trey Brown?
Yeah, he's been – I know Trey Brown has been hurt, but why hasn't he seen the field?
Oh, easy. Michael Jackson. That's it. It's a 2-word answer. Michael Jackson. I showed, what was that week? I think that was against the Giants. My film review clips that week after the Giants were of Michael Jackson. He's playing well. He is playing well. I don't think Mike's given up a touchdown since week 4. I want to say he hasn't given up one since against Josh Reynolds in the red zone. No, Mike is playing solid. Like he's good. He had a couple of big plays today. He ain't Richard Sherman or nothing, but like he's holding it down, and that's why, There's
no room for him. How about that, Mike? It's loaded now.
I wouldn't say there's no room for him as much as it's just one guy. He was up against one dude, and dude beat him out. That's sometimes it's football or any sport. It's just that simple. Michael Jackson is the reason that they didn't. Michael Jackson is tried and true, man. That boy, he didn't had to fight off Sidney Jones, then he had to fight off Artie Burns. Then he had to fight off Trey Brown and did it all without breaking the sweat. So, credit to Mike Jack. It ain't got nothing to do with Trey not being ready or anything. They put him in a competition with a guy, and the other guy held his own, man. Trey still has a shot next year, but that's a credit to Mike, man. Mike's holding it down. And then Tariq's obviously holding down the right side. So, where to help out.
This next one comes from Steve Clark. Who's been the most underrated player for the Seahawks this season, and why?
Oh, man.
Actually, I ignore that part. He gave his player, so I misspoke. So, who has been the most underrated player for the Seahawks this season?
Man, that's a good one. Man, there's so many options here. I want to say it's probably Mike, to be honest. In terms of just being underrated, the other choice for me would be either Mike or Quandre. I feel like Quandre's gotten a really bad rap, man, for like he's missed a few tackles this year for sure. He's missed a few tackles this year for sure. Like the Taysom one stands out. He had the one against George Kittle in week 15. Like that, you can't. Those are like not even. You don't need to be a film guy. He's missed some plays, but I think that like he's just as good as he was this year as he was last year. Like I legitimately think that. I think he's made the same amount of plays. He's missed the same amount of plays. Like he's largely been a consistent player for the most part. It just feels a little different this year for whatever reason. From the fan base, we've gotten questions about whether they should cut him. It's insane. Like, you see this dude? You see that play that he made? He's been doing that shit.
No one else is making that play if he's cut. That's a touchdown.
Look here, man.
In the season.
We've seen some Seahawks safeties in the post-Earl era who is not making that play. Yeah. That's a touchdown. We don't got to name them. You guys know who you've been watching. You guys know why they traded for Quandre. And I also think, and this is something I might write about this week, he has done a really good job, according to the guys who's been in the trenches with him, keeping it together in that safety position. If you think, I didn't think about this till later last week, Chris. They've played next to Quandre this year, started games. They've started Jamal Adams, Josh Jones, Ryan Neal, Tease Tabor, and Jonathan Abram all next to Quandre this year. All of them. And for the most part, save for a few Josh Jones missed tackles, the safety spot hasn't been this huge liability next to Quandre. And part of the reason for that, according to the guys in there, is his leadership, him holding guys accountable in many ways, as you guys can probably imagine. He does that. But the consistency, there's been so much. I think that's an underrated part of that too. Bobby did a lot of that last year when the defense was struggling, and the year before. And it just goes unnoticed. It just feels like, oh, guys just started playing better. Oh, they changed the scheme or some shit. Now, sometimes the leaders in the room just tell guys to get their shit together, and they get their shit together, and that in the safety department, in the defense, Quandre, he's kind of earned that C on his chest. Al Woods has too. The guys say similar things about him up front. But in the back end in particular, with all those rotating pieces, that's a lot of strong safeties they play. Chris, they're one more injury away from auditioning me and you to play strong safety next to Quandre with all these goddamn injuries. And the reason that's not just been a liability every week, in part, is because of the coaching staff and the guys they brought in, Jonathan Tease, all that. But it's also because of Nino, number 6. So that would probably be my vote for one of the more underrated guys this year.
I'm going to go D-line, and I'll take Shelby Harris. His impact, man. I saw him out there on Sunday. I'm just like, damn. He is a problem. And he's been a problem since week 1 when he made the comment. See what I mean? You trade your best players?
Yeah. No, Shelby's a dog. He's a dog. They got some dogs up front. He's a dog.
So I will go Shelby for sure. And then you highlighted him on our review plays of the week last week, and that's Kobe Parkinson. He's the guy that's definitely stepped up to the plate and might not give the credit he deserves. Although it hasn't been, I would say, as consistent, just because obviously Will Dissly was starting. So the times he was out there, maybe his impact wasn't as much, but he's definitely in that conversation for me, at least in that regard as well.
Yeah, he's been really good, particularly the last couple of weeks.
Exactly. Let's see. This next one comes from Vince Master at V_Maston. Any idea why Geno looked so upset for half the game? Even when the team was getting it done, he just doesn't look happy.
For what it's worth, I don't always see the TV copy of the game by the time we record. You guys are watching on TV. I'm there. They have the TVs on the screen, but the TV is 2 plays behind, which is why I'd be tweeting ahead of you guys. I'm sorry. I will say this. I don't know specifically what emotions he were shown on TV, but I do know that Geno said after the game that was probably one of his worst games. And he made decisions and he put the ball in harm's way. That's the main thing. That's the main thing you don't want to do. I remember I had a conversation with Sean Mannion, the practice squad quarterback, who's been around a little bit. This was weeks ago, maybe a month or 2 ago. And I was talking about what do you need to be good at to be a good quarterback in the NFL, just generally. And then I was talking about what do you need to be good at to be a good quarterback in Shane Waldron's offense in particular, because Sean's played it in a couple spots now, a couple different franchises. And one of the things he kept coming back to was just being decisive and not putting the ball in harm's way. And I know because Sean feels that way, I'm sure that's preached throughout the quarterback room. So I'm sure Geno abides by that as well. And it just wasn't the case these last couple. He's putting the ball in harm's way consistently over the last month or so. Whether the DB drops it or it gets broken up or whatever. Sometimes it's his fault, sometimes it's not. But there's been a lot of them that have clearly have been, and that's got to be frustrating, especially with the game on the line. These guys knew what it was. They knew what time it was. They knew the Lions game wouldn't matter if they didn't win. So they knew there's a lot of pressure that goes with that. So I don't know if he's felt the pressure per se, But that has to be frustrating to not perform how you expect. Geno is very hard on himself. It's a very hard critic. So like that would, knowing what I know about Geno, he's probably really hard on himself, man, because he expects himself to go out there and be excellent. And today was not excellent. It was enough to get it done, but it was not excellent by any stretch. So I would imagine that is why, man. He wants to play better than what he did today, even though he helped them win. But they got to send a bottle of champagne to Dan Campbell and send one to the whole defense if you're on the Seahawks offense, because the defense really won that game today.
This one is from Eric at Tweets Are Dumb. I am excited and happy the Seahawks are in the postseason, but to my eyes, Geno played his worst game of the season. Mike, do you agree?
Yeah, I think so, considering the circumstances. The ball in harm's way. Like, it ain't even, I think I've mentioned this stat before, Pro Football Focus tracks turnover-worthy plays. So, like, even if, let's say you fumble, let's say you're a quarterback and you fumble, and one of your linemen falls on it, that's still a turnover-worthy play. The ball just happened to bounce to your left tackle. That don't necessarily mean you did anything less or more, you know what I'm saying? So you still had a turnover-worthy moment. Same, that would be, for example, the one today. I don't know who that DB was. I think he's a rookie. Hit dude smooth in the hands. Yeah. So Quentin, I think his name is Quentin Lakes. Hits him in the hands. How you say it, Chris? He got hands like a snake.
Hands like feet.
Hands like feet. That's what it is. Hands like feet. That don't got, like, the fact that wasn't an interception has nothing to do with Geno. You know what I'm saying? That's still a turnover-worthy play. And he's had quite a bit of those. And, man, it could have been costly today, man. It could have been really, really costly. That could have been a pick six. That one to that rookie, man. So, yeah, that he made some plays, though. Credit to him. But yeah, I think that was probably his worst. I don't have all of them off the top of my head. And it was just the numbers. Like, the offense didn't score at all against the Niners in week 2. And I still think he was better. I think he hit like 80% of his passes that game. It's like, yeah, that wasn't great. I think the Panthers game where he came out and threw a pick on the first play again, like, he's got to stop doing that. And he knows that. But yeah, I think this was probably the worst, particularly considering the circumstances. However, I will say this. I might have said this before. If this is his worst, he's okay. Because we've seen around the league, some other quarterbacks' worst can be bad. Like, think of the worst Jimmy G you've seen. Think of the worst Jared Goff you've seen. Even this year, think of the worst Tua Tagovailoa you've seen. Think of the worst Tom Brady you've seen. Think of the worst Aaron Rodgers you've seen. It's all worse than the worst of Geno this year. Legitimately. All those people who've had their worst games this year, way worse than what Geno had today. So, just keep that in mind, like, especially if you have to go forward and evaluate whether Geno is the future quarterback of the Seahawks.
This next one is from Sammy C521. Make the case for re-signing Geno versus the alternative rookie quarterback Andrew. It is Andrew Luck. I haven't even said this man's name in so long I forgot his name. Drew Lock, excuse me.
Drew Lock. Oh,
yeah. It's not. Is it Andrew or just straight up Drew?
Oh fuck! I don't think Drew Lock's name is Andrew.
It's probably just Drew, huh?
Oh, it is. It's Andrew.
Well, look at that. Who knew? So, yeah, back to the question. Making the case for re-signing Geno versus the alternative rookie quarterback, Drew Lock, different veteran quarterback, etc. And then why do people assume that Geno is a fraud? He will get exposed with more tape, or that backups can't be meaningful starters.
Ooh, that was a lot of questions there. Wow, man, I did not know Drew's name was Andrew. This feels very similar to when I learned that Geno's name wasn't Geno and that it's actually Eugene. Yeah, no. Same. Did you know Dak's name isn't Dak?
Yes, it's something wild.
It's Dakota.
No, that's not wild. Never mind. So yeah,
it's Dakota. Anyways, we shouldn't stay on this, but now I'm wondering if Jimmy G's name is actually Jimmy or if it's James. Can you look that one up for me?
It's Jimmy Garoppolo.
You sure?
Yeah, you can double check it. Google it.
I don't know how to spell Garoppolo.
Sound it out, man. You got this.
Sound it out. His name is James. See?
Really?
Yeah, man. James Richard Garoppolo. No, man. It's on his Wikipedia. James Richard Garoppolo. Nickname Jimmy G.
That's crazy. I thought it was Jimmy Garoppolo. It sounds better. James Garoppolo just sounds terrible. But sorry.
Yeah. Now we gotta do one more. Hold on. Is Mac Jones' name can't be Mac?
No, it's not Mac.
Oh, what's Mac short for? His name is Michael. What the fuck? All right, we're getting super sidetracked. I just
Mac Dugar.
wow, his name is Michael. McCorkle, the guy.
McCorkle.
Michael McCorkle Jones.
Yeah, that is. I see why he went Mac.
I would go by Mac too. Actually, you can just be Mike Jones. You can just go by Mike Jones.
You can't, man. There's a legend in Houston that is. Yeah, you can't do that. Continue though.
I forgot what the question was. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's basically making the case for bringing back Geno.
Yeah, I remember now. All right, the case for Geno is that largely his process has been very good as a quarterback. And by process, I mean like making the right reads based on the coverage, checking into the right runs, audibling into the right like adjustments like he did in the Giants game for the go-ahead touchdown to Tyler, which we have a film breakdown on from our Week 8 standout plays. Week 7, he adjusted Marquise Goodwin's route on that the first touchdown to Marquise. Like stuff like that. Like the process has been good. The numbers don't always get there, and because they don't show you guys all of the angles from every play, you guys can't always see. Like sometimes a check down is a win. Sometimes the check down, he didn't scan. He checked the post. He checked the over route. He checked the hook, and then went to the check down. And all you see is it's a 3-yard gain to DJ Dallas. And meanwhile, Shane Waldron's over here like, that's perfect. That's quarterbacking. And there's a lot of that stuff. Okay, boom. He had the right hitch. This is a 3-step drop. He hit it. 1 hitch, go. This one, 2 hitches, hit Tyler Lockett on the post. All of that stuff, the right footwork, the right reads, beating the blitzes. There's been so much of that stuff, getting rid of the ball. He's been bad with some intentional groundings, trying to avoid sacks. But in general, the process has been very good. He's been on target. I think he finished with the lowest off-target percentage. So he's been, not only did he lead the league in completion percentage, I'm pretty sure, but he had the most, like he wasn't fucking up. At a better rate than most quarterbacks, every quarterback, literally, actually. So the case is actually not that hard to make. Where you get tricky is how much to pay for that type of production. That's probably for another pod, maybe after the season ends. But the case is not hard to make. The other part is when you mention alternatives, here's the thing about the Seahawks. I'll try to make this quick. Pete Carroll is always trying to field the best roster possible. That whole rebuild shit, inch closer to growth, linear progression year by year. You're not with that shit, man. Dude's over 70 years old. Every year is about winning a Super Bowl. So you have to keep that in mind when you talk about drafting a rookie quarterback very high. Because Pete's mind is like, all right, that's cool. He could build into something, but Pete's going to want that dude to have the potential to be better than whoever his incumbent is immediately. So if you take a CJ Stroud, if you're the coach, you're not just going to play CJ Stroud because you took him with the 5th pick or whatever. You're going to want to play him because he gives you the best chance to win now, right? And so that's different than let's like, oh, yeah, let's let CJ grow or whatever the hell. Well, all that growing shit doesn't help protect your job if you're the coach. You know what I'm saying? Or any of your assistants, some of whom tend to be on 1-year deals. So there's that part of it. And then if you're the front office, sometimes you have a different motivation. But for John Schneider in particular, he's like, nah, man, I grew up a Packers fan, and every year when I was a Packers fan, I wanted the Packers to go into the season with the best possible roster so we could win the goddamn Super Bowl every year. Because he grew up that way, he is aligned with Pete in that I want to field the best team so we can win this shit, particularly now that they're in year 12, 13 together or whatever. Maybe in year 1 or 2, they were like, let's build the thing. Now they just want to win every year because they've already tasted. So just keep that in mind with the alternatives. Where if a CJ Stroud might be better for the Seahawks in 2025, maybe it very well might be. Me and Chris can probably agree on that. Or Bryce Young or Will Levis. 2025 doesn't do shit for the coaching security of the guys in the building in 2023 and 2024. So that's important to remember as well. That said, it's almost like I got to pause for dramatic effect. Chris, it would not surprise me. Now, I haven't listened to Pete Carroll's press conference, but apparently he kind of alluded to this Sunday after the game. It would not surprise me if those dudes, if they can't get to a number they like with Geno's agent, that they're like, you know what, dude? We've had the best we produced the best version of Russell Wilson that anyone ever seen. We didn't help create the best version of Geno that anybody's ever seen. What do you think we'll do if we roll with Drew Lock in 2023? They're probably confident they can get the best version of Drew. whatever that looks like. I don't know, but I can see, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I can see how they would take those steps. Like, Russ has looked his worst away from Seattle. Geno's looked his worst away from Seattle. Drew has looked his worst away from Seattle. They would probably feel like, like that Jay-Z line. Oh, you say you made Hove, okay, make another Hove. John Snyder's like, yeah, we can make another Hove. Pete Carroll like, I can make another one. I don't know if they're that arrogant, but I think we can agree. We can see how they would get to that thought process. So while I think the case for Geno is very strong, there are a lot of other factors to consider besides even just the money part. It's the mindset of the people calling the shots. Yeah, that was a lot. I just feel like we should go to the next question now before I ramble for another hour.
You're good. This next one comes from @Punistan. What percentage chance do you put on Geno returning? And if so, how long?
I don't think it would be very long. I think it would probably be 3 years max. For one, they just don't give out deals longer than 3 years very often. I think Jamal got a 4-year. Russ got a 4-year, one of those. For the most part, they don't do super long-term deals anyway. Since the Percy Harvin deal, they ain't done. They've been kind of staying away. I think Tyler got a really long deal, but you can see why. So there's that. I'll probably put it about 50-50 just because they do have just avenues to move on. They have Drew. They believe in Drew. Like, every time we ask Pete about Geno's future, he always brings up Drew unprompted. They believe in Drew. John Snyder believes in Drew. Pete Carroll believes in Drew. So there's that part of it. They have a top 5 pick. If there's ever a year to need a quarterback, they have it to get, and they have another first-round pick in the back end of the draft. So I would say I put it at 50-50 because they're not like screwed. It's not like I can't think of a team right now who's kind of roped into their quarterback situation, but like I think those guys, like the Jets, are kind of screwed. I think they probably have to like pay for someone or trade. The Seahawks can just like, all right, man, Geno, if you bounce, we tag you, someone trades for you, we have ammunition. They'll have money at that point, and they would have the draft capital to replace him. And they have Drew. That's like all of the avenues you want: money, draft capital, and an in-house option. So that's why I think it's at 50-50, even though Geno does have a lot of leverage in the negotiations.
This next one comes from Eli. The Seahawks have struggled in slowing down tight ends this season. How are the Seahawks going to slow down George Kittle? Because he cooked them the last time.
Don't bust any coverages. That helps. I think one of those like a 50-yarder. Don't miss any tackles. That's another one.
The other one was just a great play, though, I'll be honest.
Yeah. But those two things right there. Like, I bet you if I asked about George Kittle during the week, I get a version of them two answers right there. They'll probably say something like be disciplined or something. But in effect, that means don't blow any coverages. And get guys on the ground. That's probably what they'll say. Yeah, it means don't miss any fucking tackles. You do those two things in the first meeting, and his stat line doesn't look as crazy. That's for most players, honestly, including Deebo Samuel if he plays. So I think that's the main thing. Like, we can get into some scheme and some other shit. For me, that's the main thing. Tackle the man and don't blow any coverages. You do those two things, you can pretty much hold down most people, unless they're just inhuman, like Justin Jefferson. But even then, the Packers just shut him down.
Jair Alexander.
Alexander, by the way, who might be he and Jamal Williams might be the two funniest guys in the NFL. Like, they are, every time they get put in front of a camera, I find myself laughing. So those are, anyway, those are the two things for me, is just tackle the dude when he gets the ball in his hands and just don't bust any coverages, which they've done several times against the Niners.
This next one comes from @AFraud. Interesting. I like that one. A fraud. Has DK done lost his complete mind once and for all? Should the Seahawks trade him for some draft cap or keep him and draft a new number one? He sped up.
Yeah, no, A fraud is hot. I wouldn't go that far. Let me bring it down to earth, A fraud. It's cool. I understand the frustration because there was some moments today where it just looked like DK was very ready to just try and whoop Jalen Ramsey's ass. I'm not talking about it in a football sense. I'm talking about meet me in the tunnel, and we're about to throw hands. That's what that looked like. Him pushing Jalen after after the unsportsmanlike or whatever late hit, whatever they called on the Geno run and regulation. Totally unnecessary. Usually, we talked about it on the podcast. I'm cool with guys wanting to smoke, but you have to be very careful to make sure it's inconsequential smoke. Like if we're already gonna punt on 4th and whatever, and you go and headbutt somebody, give a shit. 15 yards, don't matter. We're about to punt. If we're about to try to kick a game-winning field goal in regulation, you cool it a little bit. Same thing in overtime. I mean, you saw him getting into it with guys before Jason's kick in overtime as well. Or maybe it was in regulation. Anyway, there was 2 instances where it was just a lot to the point where A-Rod's asking that question. No, you don't get rid of the guy. But the key is to, with a lot of players, there's a fine line, whatever it is. With Russell, it was how can we maximize his backyard football without him taking a bunch of 18-yard sacks on 2nd down. That was the thing. With Ken Walker, it's very similar. How can we maximize his freelancing plays that turned into home runs versus also teaching dude how to hit some singles and doubles every once in a while? With DK, it's how can we keep his edge where he kicks guys' asses but doesn't get kicked out of the game. That's just or hurt the team. That's probably the best way to put that. That's the fine line. And with certain players, the things are different. None of those things are necessarily bad, quote unquote. It's just happening when you have special players who are unique. That's probably the word Pete Carroll would say it. So, no, you don't get rid of a guy like that. But you do. Discussing that line openly, that fine line openly, is very important. You can see that it's already being done with Ken. There was a few runs today with Ken where he just hit the hole and got 2 yards instead of losing 4. That's good. That's progress in his regard. Same thing with DK this year. He got thrown out of a game in week 10 last year. This year you can see he's like, I'm trying not to at least get booted because that hurt my team. And he came close today. came close today. He can't do that. I think that's the conversation that needs to be had, particularly against the 49ers, with whom he has quarreled quite a bit. That needs to be the conversation this week. Keep that edge. Don't hurt the team. Real simple. And he knows that.
This next one is from Young Slick X. How was DK after that game?
This will be real quick. I did not see him, nor did I talk to him. I would imagine he probably would have not wanted to talk. I'm just guessing. I just didn't see him. It took a long time for them to let us in the locker room today. I don't know if that's because they had a longer speech, maybe because they were coordinating where they would go watch the game. I don't know. But by the time I got in there, half the guys were gone. So I did not see him. Did not get a chance to talk to him. I don't know if anyone else did. If you guys see some quotes, tag me in them. But I did not get a chance to talk to him.
This next one is from Ryan Turner at Turns44.
Ryan, what up?
Over the last 2 weeks, DK has 4 catches for 43 yards versus Sauce and Jalen. He's paid like the number one, but we're seeing he can be removed from games. What does he need to do, and can he do to be moved up the ladder of wide receivers?
I think winning some more of those 50-50s. And some of that's not all on him. Like he got overthrown against DJ Reed, against the Jets. Geno threw the back shoulder fade too high against Sauce. One of them got broken up against Sauce and the red. Like none of these were like, oh, DK needs to be better type of thing. Like the process, like we were talking about with Geno, the process was fine. But some of the other stuff, like it's just winning and attacking the ball too. We talked about it. DK body catches sometimes where you could just go up because he can go up and get it. I walk by a picture every day. They have it in the Seahawks facility. It's a superimposed image of him catching the ball all hands with Patrick Surtain II draped all over him in week 1. And it's just like, that's it. That he had one against the Chiefs too, like that. You just go up, snag that motherfucker. I think he had one against JC Horn too of the Panthers. That's just where it got to be. But I also think they got to do a better job, and this is more like the coaching staff and stuff, is getting him more layups. And that's the thing you've seen with like they do with Justin Jefferson, with the Vikings.
Tyler Lockett.
Yeah, Tyler's great on third down. But I think I'm thinking of guys who are like where they're clearly the guy, and all the attention goes in the way it goes to DK, like Devontae Adams the last few years in Green Bay. They kept getting him layups. Whether it was in the red zone, whether it was like screens, get him on the run, like in motion, on the run, just like ways to get him layups. where you get the ball in his hands. I think there's a clip from the Detroit game last year. I probably got to find it. I tweeted it. It's all of his like just dink and dunk catches that turned into something, you know? Because when DK gets to running, nobody want to tackle that shit. No, nobody wants to do that, especially when it's cold. You in week 19, you sore already, your shoulder already falling off. You're about to just lower that shit into DK. I think they got to take advantage of that more often. And I think that's not a DK thing. That's a coaching thing. That would probably be the thing I'll point to. And some of that's probably on Geno. Trust him a little bit more. He trusts DK a lot already, but, you know, like there'll be the weakest part about the Niners defense. If there is a weak part, I say quotes with the weak part. Their defense is not weak. If there is a weak spot, it is the cornerback position. You have DK Metcalf. Take advantage of that cornerback position. Trust him with Charvarius Ward. Trust him against number 38, their other cornerback. Like, trust. I mean, Geno trusted Tariq Young against Charvarius Ward on a 40-yard back shoulder bomb. Throw it up to him, too. So, I just think it's a combination of things. It ain't just that, like, DK's not being a number one. There's a lot of things that go into guys who produce like number ones.
This next one comes from McFly at a good old age. What's more important for #NeverKick? A good defense or a good offense?
A good offense. Because if you're not going to kick, you got to convert, you know? Because your defense has to get a stop either way, so it doesn't really matter. Let's say you kick a field goal. You need your defense to get a stop the next possession, right? Or if you go for it on fourth down, you don't get it. You need your defense to get a stop to get to the ball back. So, like, either way, you're expecting a stop. So, like the Packers game, for example, I loved Dan Campbell going for that shit to ice the game. Because you know what Aaron Rodgers was going to do if they tied that motherfucker with a field goal? He would have went down there and won the game. That's what he would have done. And the never kick attitude, I would say I understand that sometimes you kick, but the never kick attitude is more about the difference between playing not to win and playing not to lose and playing to win. Dan Campbell in that situation played to win. Because like if you kick a field goal and you go up 7, you're like, at the very least, we're not gonna lose. That's the thought. We're up 7. If you go for the fourth down and get it, the game is over. See what I'm saying? It's the difference between playing to win and playing not to lose. So that's the mindset. And I think that if you do it, if you see it with some of the trick plays that the Detroit Lions run, because that's part of their DNA. Now third downs are a totally different bag. Like I think the one today, or they had one today where it was like 3rd and something long, like a passing down, but they ran it. Like 3rd and 8 or 9, but they picked up like 7 or 8 yards. Okay, well now you ran it against the other team's 3rd down defense, and you had an advantage. And you picked up enough yards to go for it. You see what I mean? It just changes the math. Instead of 3rd and 12 being an obvious, we need 12 yards. If you think of 3rd and 12 as, well, okay, if we get 8 or 9, it's feasible. You know what I mean? So I think that's having the good offense is better, man. And how fucking fitting is it that Jared Goff is who sends the Seahawks to the postseason, man? That's incredible.
This next one comes from at Kyle Sirakawa. A few non-playoff questions. How big a loss was Bo Melton being claimed by the Packers? Any hope the Seahawks will see Tyreek Smith next season? Any chance Rashad Penny comes back to Seattle next year?
The Bo one, not as big a deal, largely because they already have Cade, and I'm a Coug, so I'm biased, but I think they should play Easop Winston, particularly just to return punts, even though DJ had a good one today. Tyreek Smith, yes, I believe he'll be in the mix in 2023. Probably take a little bit to get his sea legs under him. Like it wouldn't surprise me if he's a guy who doesn't pop until like week 10. But when he pops, he might pop. You know, Rasheem Green was like that his rookie year, too, in 2018. Like he didn't pop till late. He popped in the preseason, went quiet, and then just like popped in like week 9. I could see Tyreek Smith being very similar, particularly as a pass rusher. Rashad Penny, next season, I don't know, but I will say this. I don't think another team will want Rashad as bad as the Seahawks do. And that probably is an important thing. Doesn't mean other teams won't want him. Boy can run. He can run. Some teams will be much better if he's their starting running back next year. That's a fact. But I do think that there's something to be said for like if your team wants you the most, and the money, like it ain't somebody's mate, but ain't about to drop $20 million on them. You know, like if you look at some of the guys they lost The other teams made some really strong pushes. Like the Jets outbid the Seahawks, I think, significantly for DJ Reed. Same thing with the Jaguars and Shaquille Griffin a couple of off seasons ago. So when they've lost guys, there were teams that wanted them more. And I don't think that'll be the case. I think the Seahawks, even with Ken having the year he's having, will probably be the team that wants him the most. I think that's an important place to start with, because with every free agent, it may not be the case. Hell, that may not be the case with Geno. There may be some teams who are desperate for Geno, perhaps more than the Seahawks feel they are desperate for him because of what we talked about earlier with the draft capital and the in-house options.
This next one comes from @based_field95. Do you think Daryl Taylor has shown enough this season to justify a contract extension this offseason?
Yeah. It just depends on what he would want. If he wants top of the market money, then if I'm Daryl, from his agent, I say, hey, DT, you balled out, great, led the team in sacks, count the playoffs, probably going to get to double digits, which is great. You're up for an extension in August if you would like one. I think we should wait, play out the 2023 season, see if we can get to double digits, and then let's go from there, hit free agency and get a bag. For real, that's what I would say, because right now you're just going off 2 years of production. It's hard to get a big deal off 2 years of production, for him in particular, just because of how the first season he didn't play, and then and how this season started. Seahawks, if they want to just sign him in August, then you probably get a bargain, right? Because again, you're going off of just 2 years of production. If I was him, I would advise him and say, hey, bet on yourself. We'll take out an insurance policy just in case you get hurt. Play the 2023 season, see if you can get to 10 sacks, get some more forced fumbles, and then let's hit free agency in 2024 in March and get you the bag, like $25 million a year. If that sounds crazy to you guys, go look up what edge rushers are making right now. Yeah, they gets the bag. Whatever Brian Burns gets, that's what Daryl Taylor should hold out for in 2024. I'm serious, because Daryl will probably be like 27 or something like that if he hits free agency. That would be the move for him personally.
This next one comes from Cody Marmon. Do you think Kenneth Walker III won the Offensive Rookie of the Year with his performance down the stretch of the season? And how successful has this season been, whether or not Seattle gets the dub against the Niners?
Yeah, I think Ken will win. He's like an odds-on favorite. I say that just off the betting numbers. I don't know if I haven't talked to guys who have votes, but when you're the odds-on favorite, you're probably going to win. Same reason why I think Sauce is going to win the defensive one. I think Ken's over 1,000 yards. I don't know how many touchdowns he has, but like in terms of from scrimmage numbers, Ken deserving. I think Garrett Wilson has a really good argument as well. Let's see if I can pull some of these numbers while I'm talking. Garrett, who else, Chris, is in that? Olave. Olave is putting up some good numbers too. Hell, I saw Brock Purdy in the odds. He's playing well. What's the kid from Atlanta? The one that I liked out of the draft too, Algier.
Oh, okay. The running back, yep.
Yeah, Oh, yeah, not Drake London. Sorry, yeah. Yeah, I'm looking at Algier. Algier has 1,174 scrimmage yards. Not nearly as many touchdowns. Oh, he only has 4 scrimmage touchdowns. So Ken has more scrimmage yards and more scrimmage touchdowns. So maybe he's not the choice there. Yeah, I'm looking at the guys now. Damn, Ken has 9 touchdowns. He's a beast. The only person with as many touchdowns as him from scrimmage is Christian Watson. And Christian Watson only has fewer than 700 yards for the year. So yeah, actually I rethink that. Ken Walker, Offensive Rookie of the Year, man. Shout out to Ken. Early congratulations, because he should win that award. Tariq should win Defensive Rookie of the Year, too.
Well, speaking of Tariq, this one comes from Brian Lindy. Do the Hawks make the postseason without Tariq, and does this factor into the Defensive Rookie of the Year conversation?
They definitely don't make the playoffs without Tariq. Tariq's a baller. I just think, man, Tariq. I'm not going to go on a whole soliloquy about Tariq. I will say this, man, and I feel confident about this. I think everyone would agree. If Sauce had 6 interceptions and that led the league, no one, and you just flip that. No one will be arguing for Tariq to win Rookie of the Year. No one. If Tariq only had 2 and Sauce had 6, leading the league as a rookie, and one of those was a pick six. No one.
Have you tweeted that yet?
Not in those versions of it. Maybe I just should do that. But
Yes.
their numbers are so comparable for the raw to the advanced. And then you see that one guy has triple the interceptions as the other guy and leads the league in that category. If Sauce led the league in picks, Jets fans would be telling me very disrespectful things in my mentions. Instead, they're just like, oh, look at all these numbers. Come on, man. So, yeah, Tariq should win. Tariq should win, and I think Ken will win.
Next one comes from Zach. Is this the strangest Seahawks season you've ever covered?
That's a good question. No. It was fun. It was a very fun season. I think
Not over yet, Mike. What you mean?
Well, the regular season. Sorry, regular season.
Okay.
Yeah, regular season very fun just because of the storylines, the newness of it. I just didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know what Geno would do. I didn't know what Abe Lucas and Charles Cross would do. I didn't know what Ken Walker would do, or Tariq Woolen, or Kobe Bryant, or what Jordan Brooks would do. This year. Or I would like to have covered Jamal Adams, but you guys get it. The weirdest one was 2020 and 2021 were very weird because of everything that I knew about the Russell situation but couldn't say. That was very tricky. Every week to just know a lot of shit about how it was building towards him getting traded. And I tried to report some stuff with Mike Sando and Jason Jenks, and we did those stories on those guys. But like every week I had like an update about how things were going behind the scenes, not just with him, but the front office, with the players in the locker room. But it wasn't all stuff I was like greenlit to speak on. So it made for some very rough podcasts in 2020. I would come on here and tell Chris all this stuff I knew and be like, all right, Chris, we can't use any of that. Ready to record. That was very weird. And because it was with such a prominent player who was then often contradicting everything that I was being told when he would speak publicly, it's like, fuck, this is making this really weird. Like I'm saying this stuff on the pod and Russ is getting up there saying he wants to be here forever. It was a very weird situation. So that in particular made that so odd because then we also were out of the locker rooms for 20 and 2021. So that made it even weirder. So that for me, because of what I knew and couldn't say, 2021 and 2020 were some of the weirdest seasons ever, man. I hope we don't deal with that again. If Geno got some shit to get off, I hope he just tells the truth. Because yeah, Russ made those last 2 years very funky in that regard.
The last one comes from Tony K at Karate K84. What's been your guys' favorite moment or play from the Seahawks this season? What's been the worst moment or play from the Seahawks this season as well?
You want to both do worst first? We can end on a positive.
I like the way you think. Yes. Worst moment, I would say, was seeing Rashad Penny go down just because the dude gives it his all. Not that other players don't, obviously, but
right.
This is someone that has had injury issues his entire time with the Seahawks, and he just could not catch a break. And this season, it seemed promising. He got banged up, obviously, and he played through a lot of stuff, but then to have that injury that took him out for the season, it's dang. It happened to him again, and that was just a really tough moment for, I know, a lot of Seahawks fans and obviously for Rashad Penny, who was excited. He was feeling very confident about the season, and he had high expectations for what he wanted to do with the Seahawks offense, and it got cut short. Yeah,
no, I seen Rashad crying in New Orleans, man. When he, I forget what he broke his fibula, I think. It was that. You're right. That's a good one, man. That just hurt a lot for all those reasons. I'm glad you picked that. I'll probably just go with the Raider game. That was
the game.
Well, the way it ended too, like.
No, you're right. Yeah.
That was just deflating. It was really a deflating moment. They bounced back and won the next week, but it was just deflating. At that point, I was like, these guys might be cooked. I was like, these guys might not win another game. The Raiders were like 4-7 at the time or something. Like I was, oh man, I just thought that was rock bottom. I had thought the Panthers loss, I guess, was probably worse, but at the time that Raiders loss, man, just the way that it went, just getting run all over, like that was demoralizing, man. So that was, yeah. That was pretty rough.
Favorite moment or play? I'll go with the play. I already gave you a moment, so I'll go with the play. There's a lot of plays. I could probably spend another 20 minutes breaking down all the plays that have been my favorite. But I would say it's going to be a Tyler Lockett play, and I got to pick a touchdown now. So I'll go with a touchdown today that tied the game at 13. They needed a touchdown, and Tyler Lockett runs a really good post. He gets the cornerback wide, gets him out deep, and then he just comes across the middle. And Geno, being the laser throwing quarterback that he is, puts it right on the money, and Tyler does the rest. And when it's 99% of the time when Tyler is about to make a play or make an attempt for a catch, he's catching it. I would consider him money. Like, he's Mr. Possession. And I think Geno knew he was going there the whole entire time. Tyler ran the perfect route, perfect throw, touchdown. To be honest, I could pick every single one of Tyler's touchdowns because they were all pretty impactful and big-time situations. So I'll go with that because, again, that tied the game at 13, and the Seahawks definitely needed a touchdown because they had just gotten a 3-and-out, down 13-6, coming into the third quarter, and they got to put some points on the board. And who do you go to? Ty Lockett.
Yeah, I have a tie. I think the first one that really comes to mind is Geno's comeback drive against the Rams. I just thought that was really good for him, man, because this Geno thing, it's just been probably the best story in the NFL season. I mean, DeMar Hamlin living is way more important grand scheme, but just like for the entire season, like Geno, I think has been the bigger one, not the bigger one, but just the best one if you exclude DeMar from the sample. It's just a story of perseverance and self-belief, man, that can just apply in so many other points in life. And I just think people can just take so much from that, whether you're in school or, I don't know, you're just grinding towards something. Geno just basically waited his turn for 7 years and came off the bench ready. So whatever your version of your grind is, I feel like everybody can draw something, whether it's your relationship, your parenting, something. You just waiting to get healthy in your life, or you waiting for a family member to get healthy, or whatever. There's just so many ways. There's so many things to draw from Geno, and that the comeback drive just kind of put all that. Like, it felt like, man, there's nothing this dude can't do. You know, that was really cool. And kind of almost in the opposite of Rashad, not in the opposite, but in a similar vein in a way, is today seeing Quandre make the play that he did. It was almost like a year ago this week, broke his leg. To see him come back and make that play at a time where it just felt like people almost got spoiled with how good he's been playing, man. To make that, to come through, to kind of cap off all the other intangible stuff that I'm talking about with the on-field performance in that moment, like a year after, crying on that field in Arizona, which I was there for. That's tough. That's tough, man. As the DeMar thing put in perspective, these guys are not just robots. They break bones, they tear ligaments, and that shit hurts emotionally and physically. So that was cool. Like, for both of those guys, Geno, Quandre, a bunch of guys have similar story arcs, but those two particularly, you can just resonate with. Again, it's perseverance, believing in yourself, overcoming some shit, all things that it can be applicable beyond football. So yeah, those two, I got a tie.
I got one more, actually, and it'll actually be Pete Carroll and the Seattle Seahawks knocking off the Broncos week 1, because that started off everything, man. If they don't get that win, I don't know how this season goes. I really don't. I think that win really catapulted them. Although the next week they get their doors kicked in, but they definitely got off to the start they wanted with that win. They believed in that roster. They went out there and proved it. Sure, it wasn't the greatest game, but they definitely wanted to beat the Denver Broncos and Russell Wilson, and they were able to do so. And I think that kickstarted what we're seeing at the end of the season now, where they're 9-8, going into the postseason with a chance to do what they want to do, which is compete for a Super Bowl.
That is a good one. That's the start of the I ain't right back.
Yeah, I was like, wait a second.
Greatest quote of the year by far. Best quote. I ain't right back.
No kizzy. Well, look, this has been another episode of Seahawks Man to Man. We appreciate all the Twitter questions, all the love and support, whether it is you listen to us on Apple, Spotify, iHeart. I think I'm missing one, but that's okay.
The
We
Athletic.
appreciate it. The one that pays us, yes, The Athletic. So we appreciate all the love. Also on YouTube as well, if you tapping in and watching us live. Thank you so much. We will have a busy week because Mike's catching flights and we got to figure stuff out. But you know what? We're going to give you content. That's what we're here for. So with that being said, Mike, is there anything you want to add before we get out of here?
Yeah, just on some programming notes. Just turn on your notifications for us because we're working on the schedule now. I got to call Matt Barrows, who's down in San Francisco, so we got to get that scheduled. They're playing on a Saturday, so I'm flying on a Friday, so Nick's dropping our film review tough. So nothing's set in stone. Just turn your notifications on. I mean, when we drop the shit, you'll know. Guaranteed. You don't got to ask. So just that's all. Thank you for the love and support. Turn your notifications on. We'll catch you guys later in the week.
Perfect.